Do you believe that overthinking could be destroying your life? Yes, exactly that. You don't need more knowledge. You don't need another degree. You don't need luck or to have been born in the right place. What you need is a single habit. One habit. Simple. Repetitive. Yet so powerful that it changed everything for me. And you know what else? This habit isn't taught at school. Not even at university. And that's why most people live far below what they are truly capable of. Now, I'm going to show you exactly what this habit is, and how it has the power to completely transform your reality. But before that, I want you to remember something. I came from rock bottom. No education. No opportunities. No direction. And I built a life of freedom, wealth, and purpose. If I did it, why wouldn't you be able to? Have you ever stopped to think how many times you've heard something and thought, oh, I already know that? But if you really knew it, why hasn't your life changed yet? You see, I discovered, in the hardest possible way, that it's not what we know that transforms our lives. It's what we do with what we know. And even more, it's what we repeat. Repetition is the habit that changes everything. People underestimate it. They think they need a new insight, a new course, a new method, a new guru. But the truth, and listen closely, is that they need to repeat the old truth until it's rooted so deeply it begins to govern their thoughts, decisions, and actions. That's how it was for me. I was full of doubt, limiting beliefs, insecurity. I had no education. No direction. I was broken inside and out. And a friend gave me the book Think and Grow Rich along with one piece of advice: Bob, do exactly what I'm telling you. Do it every single day. And keep doing it until you either find out I'm lying, or that I don't know what I'm talking about. So I did. Every day. Even without understanding. Even when nothing seemed to change. Even when everything in me wanted to return to the comfort zone. Even when my mind said, this won't work. And do you know what happened? Gradually, things began to change. My behavior changed. My thinking changed. My level of confidence began to rise. And with it, the results began to appear. But look, it didn't happen overnight. There was no magic. There was repetition. Disciplined, ongoing, relentless repetition. I scrubbed floors for years. And even when my body was exhausted, my mind was constantly in training. I repeated affirmations. I visualized. I mentally educated myself, every single day. It wasn't the act of scrubbing floors that made me a millionaire. It was the mental habit I developed while doing it. And that's the part most people miss. They think they need to quit their current job, change everything in life, start all over. But it's not about changing your activity. It's about changing the internal pattern that drives your life. Have you noticed how certain thoughts repeat in your head like a broken record? Thoughts like, I'm not good enough. It's not for me. I've tried everything. Money is hard. My life's just like this. These thoughts are also repetitions. But they are destructive ones. They are mental habits of scarcity, insecurity, and limitation. Now imagine if you changed that soundtrack. Imagine hearing every single day, I am worthy of prosperity. I have the power to create my reality. I am capable. Money flows to me in alignment with my purpose. I deserve an extraordinary life. Could you listen to that every day for 30 days straight? Most people can't. Not because they don't want to, but because they don't believe it works. And that's why they remain stuck. The mind needs repetition to accept a new idea. And that's why I stress it so much. The secret lies in repeating the right thing until it becomes automatic. Do you want to know why programs like 6 Minutes to Success work? Because they don't give you an overwhelming explosion of information. They build a routine. A rhythm. A sequence. And when the right idea is repeated enough times, it starts to root in the subconscious. And it is your subconscious that runs 96% of your life. Now let me tell you something very few people know. During the first 9 years of my transformation, I listened to the same audio, with the same message, from Earl Nightingale. There was a particular sentence that kept following me: we downplay what we're capable of, and for some strange reason, we believe others can, but we can't. I've heard that line more than 1,000 times. Literally. And you know what's crazy? I only truly understood what it meant years later. One day, in the middle of an event, I heard that sentence again inside my head, and in that moment, for the first time, I felt its truth. It was as if a part of me had suddenly woken up. Have you ever had a moment like that? One where a truth seems to pierce through you and change everything in seconds. That's the power of repetition. It turns information into understanding, and understanding into action. And when that happens, your reality shifts. That's why, if I could give you just one piece of advice, and only one, I'd say, choose a powerful idea and repeat it. Every single day. Out loud. With feeling. With intention. Don't skip a single day. Do it with blind faith for 30 days. And then come back and tell me what happened. You'll see that the change doesn't begin on the outside. It begins within. In the silence. In the unseen. And then, it reveals itself in the physical world in a way that feels like magic, but it's not. It's science applied to the mind. The right repetition creates the right habit. And the right habit creates an extraordinary life. Doubt is sneaky. It creeps in quietly, without asking permission, and settles in as if it's part of you. Sometimes it disguises itself as caution. Other times, as logic. And you don't even notice it sabotaging you, every single day. I know, because I lived that way for years. And even more, I've seen hundreds, even thousands of people stuck, paralyzed, not because they lacked ability, but because they had too much doubt. I often say doubt is the invisible poison of success. It makes you hesitate when you're meant to act. It convinces you that it's safer to wait. And the more you wait, the further you drift from what you really want. Doubt steals your dreams with your permission. You don't shout, don't resist, don't even notice. You simply agree. When I started applying the principles of Think and Grow Rich I had no guarantee it would work. None at all. I was broke, uneducated, without direction. I was cleaning floors, living a life that felt aimless. But I had two choices: I could keep listening to the doubt, or I could choose to believe, without proof, without results, without support. And I chose to believe. I trusted the process. I trusted the voice that said, follow this path. Repeat. Practice. Keep going. And the reward came. Not just in money, but in clarity, purpose, self-esteem. Because doubt destroys that too, it makes you look in the mirror and feel small. Insignificant. Incapable. And belief does the opposite, it brings you back to yourself. Let me tell you something that might sound strange: most people who are financially stuck today are not in that position because of the economy, or politics, or the market, or any external factor. They are stuck because of a decision they didn't make. And that decision wasn't made because of doubt. You might be thinking now, but what if I try and it goes wrong? And I ask you, what if you never try, and spend your whole life wondering what might have happened? That question hurts more. I promise. Look, doubt will never vanish entirely. But you can shrink it until it no longer controls you. And to do that, you need to understand that growth happens when you act in spite of doubt. It's like a muscle: the more you challenge it, the stronger it becomes. Confidence is built on small acts of courage. Every step, no matter how small, is a win against doubt. Want a real example? Walt Disney. The man who built a multi-billion-pound empire from drawings. His fortune today would be worth roughly £11 billion sterling. Did you know he was rejected more than 300 times before getting the funding to build Disneyland? More than 300 times. Most people would have quit by the 5th try. Or sooner. But he didn't. He had a vision. And despite all the doubt around him, he chose to believe in his vision more than his fear. Now think about all the people who doubted him. Today, they are forgotten. But he lives on in the memory of entire generations. That's the difference between those who succeed and those who sabotage themselves. One chose faith. The other chose doubt. Have you ever found yourself imagining incredible plans in your mind, but never acting on them? Have you ever pictured the life of your dreams, but always feel like it's too early, or too late, or just too complicated? That's doubt taking control of you. And the more you feed that thought, the stronger it gets. And the weaker you feel. That's why action is the antidote. When you act, you show yourself that you're in charge. That you're no longer willing to stay paralyzed. Even if you don't know all the steps. Even if the whole path isn't clear. It's enough to see the next step. And take it. In my case, the next step was to accept the advice of that friend and start applying wealth principles, even while I was scrubbing floors. Nothing glamorous. Nothing fancy. But it was the step I could take. And it was the step that changed everything. You might be thinking now, but I'm scared. And I say to you, it's okay to be scared. Just don't let it be bigger than your desire. Fear can walk beside you, but it cannot drive. The steering wheel has to be in your hands. And here's something else I need you to understand once and for all: doubt is often inherited. You heard it from your parents, from school, from society, that you couldn't, that it was risky, that it wasn't for you. And you accepted that as truth. But it was only their truth. Not yours. Science has already shown that our brain is shaped by the repetition of thoughts. If you repeat fear and doubt, that's what gets reinforced. But if you start repeating confidence, even if it feels forced at first, your brain begins to rewire its neural connections. This isn't magic. It's neuroscience. So let me suggest something practical. For the next 14 days, choose a power phrase. It could be something like, I trust myself, or I am capable of creating my own reality. Repeat that phrase 50 times when you wake up. And another 50 times before you go to bed. Do it like it's your new religion. Don't analyze. Don't question. Just repeat. You'll notice that, with time, the voice of doubt begins to fade. And the voice of confidence starts getting louder. That's the beginning of your freedom. Because when doubt loses strength, your true potential begins to emerge. And then, my friend, nothing can hold you back. I was standing at the back of a hotel conference room, almost hidden. Shy. Silent. In front of me were around 1,000 people, and on stage was a man named Bill Gove, speaking with a presence that felt almost magical. He moved with confidence, spoke from the soul, and looked directly into the heart of every person in the room. Then he said something that changed my life forever: if I want to be free, I've got to be me. Not the me I think you think I should be. Not the me my wife expects me to be. Not the me my kids expect. The real me. That line pierced me like an arrow. Because, up to that moment, I hadn't been myself. I was a collection of other people's expectations. I had been shaped by the fear of not pleasing, by the need for approval, by the unconscious desire to belong. And that's what is imprisoning most people today. They are trapped in manufactured versions of themselves. A mask for work. A mask at home. A mask on social media. And none of them is real. You might even ask yourself, how much of me is truly mine? And how much was copied, imposed, or inherited? I spent much of my life like that. Trying to fit in. Trying to seem normal. Trying to be who I thought others expected me to be. And what did that cause? A hollow feeling in my chest. A sense that something was always missing. And what was missing was me. The greatest prison humans face doesn't have bars or locks. It's called social expectation. And it starts early. When you're told you need to choose a safe career. That you need to behave better. That you shouldn't dream too big. That you should keep your feet on the ground. That you should think like everyone else. And what happens? You start living a life that isn't yours. You work a job that doesn't inspire you. You stay in relationships that drain you. You dress how others expect. Speak how others expect. Think how others expect. And slowly, you disappear. That's why, in that room, listening to Bill Gove, I made a decision. I didn't want to be a reflection of what others expected anymore. I wanted to be me. I wanted to learn how to speak in public, to share my truth, to touch lives with my voice, not with a disguise. But it wasn't easy. I was extremely shy. I would hide even in small groups. I avoided being asked questions. I used to stay quiet. And deep down, I felt small. Even though I knew I carried something valuable inside me, I would sabotage myself because I believed I wasn't enough. How many times have you stayed silent, even though you had something important to say? How many times have you swallowed your opinion to avoid conflict? How many times have you given up on a dream because someone told you it was crazy? This happens so often that it starts to feel normal. But it's not. It's pain disguised as routine. And here's the truth no one really tells you: true freedom only exists when you have the courage to be who you are, with all your flaws, gifts, desires, and truths. Life truly begins when you stop trying to please the world and start living in alignment with your essence. I'm not saying to be rebellious or selfish. I'm saying to be honest with yourself. To look in the mirror and say, this is what I believe in. This is what I want. This is who I am. Modern psychology has already shown that one of the biggest causes of anxiety and depression today is the disconnection from one's true self. People living in roles. People trying to fit into unreachable standards. People afraid to disappoint, to be judged, or not to be accepted. That's why the world is full of tired, frustrated, and lost people. Not because they lack intelligence or talent, but because they lack authenticity. It took me years to understand that. I had to look within, break down barriers, face old wounds, and question everything I had been taught. I had to accept that I didn't have to be like others to be valuable. That my truth had worth, and the more I shared it, the more I would set myself free, and others too. Today, I speak to thousands of people across the world. But it all started in that room, with one simple thought: I'm going to be me. And I'm going to learn how to do that in my own way. And now, I invite you to do the same. Give yourself permission to be who you are. Let go of the roles that no longer serve you. Stop trying to live a life that only looks right on the outside. Because your real life is waiting for you on the other side of the courage to show up fully. And when you do that, the world responds. The right doors open. The right people appear. The right opportunities arrive. Because life always supports those who dare to live in truth. How many times have you started something excited, and stopped just days later? A new habit. A new diet. A new financial plan. A new course. At first, everything seems possible. But after about 7 days, or even 14, everything returns to how it was before. As if nothing had ever happened. And you look back and wonder, why do I always end up in the same place? I've seen it happen thousands of times. And I've lived it myself. At the beginning of my journey, I read books, went to seminars, listened to audio lessons. I felt that initial rush of enthusiasm, that desire to change the world. But quickly, the energy would fade, and so would the results. I felt a wave of motivation, but nothing lasted. Nothing stuck. That's when I realized something simple but incredibly powerful: most people experience temporary improvements because they live on temporary emotions. They look for bursts of excitement instead of planting roots of transformation. And that's the issue. They don't build results that last. They only accumulate fleeting experiences. But what truly changes your life is what remains. What becomes part of who you are. And that only happens one way: through conscious repetition and the creation of a new mental pattern. That's what produces lasting results. Let me tell you something you may have never heard quite this clearly: your brain is being trained every single day, even if you don't realize it. Every thought, every repeated behavior, every decision you make is shaping the neural pathways that govern your life. And the scariest part? 95% of your decisions are made on autopilot. In other words, it's not your conscious choices that determine your results. It's the patterns you repeat without even noticing. You may want to be wealthy, healthy, happy, but if your unconscious programming doesn't change, nothing else will. Because you will always act in alignment with your inner wiring, not your surface-level wishes. This is science. And that's why motivation doesn't work. The only thing that works is structural transformation. And that only comes with method, practice, and repetition. That's why I created programs like 6 Minutes to Success. Not to motivate, but to transform. Because he doesn't just give you content. He gives you a system. A daily, step-by-step framework. A structure that's simple, yet powerful, designed to build a new version of you, from the inside out. And when something changes within you, the outside world has no choice but to respond. You know that cycle where you start full of energy and excitement, then stop soon after? That's because you haven't changed the system. You're simply reacting to emotions. And emotions alone don't build anything. What builds is habit. Ritual. Discipline with direction. People look at someone successful and think they're lucky, gifted, or have some hidden advantage. But what they don't see is what happens behind the scenes, the repetition. The discipline. The routine. The quiet engine of consistency. And most people aren't willing to do that work, because they're after fast change, not real transformation. But let me share something I've experienced myself. When I started earning money, a lot of people came around. They wanted to know my secret. And when I spoke about mindset, repetition, habit, perseverance, you know what they said? Oh, I've heard that before. And they'd go right back to the same life. As if the issue was lack of information. But the real problem was the lack of continuous implementation. Want an extreme example? Michael Jackson. One of the greatest performers in history. Did you know he would practice the same dance steps for hours on end, even decades into his career? Even after being recognized as the best? He did it because he understood that excellence comes from repetition. And that lasting success isn't a gift, it's a practice. Now, bring that into your life. If you want different results, you have to live differently. Not just for a day. Not just when you're motivated. But until it becomes part of who you are. And you'll feel it. Something will shift inside you. Like a gear turning. Like reality itself is adjusting to your new internal rhythm. And from that moment on, nothing is the same. Because now, you're no longer reacting to the world, you're creating your own. The results that last don't come from what you do occasionally. They come from what you do consistently. And when you start acting like the person you want to become, the entire universe will align to affirm your new identity. So the question is, do you want to feel good for a few days? Or do you want to build a life that keeps growing, even after the excitement fades? Because if it's the second one, then you need to create a system. Choose an idea. Repeat it. Apply it every single day, with faith, discipline, and intention. And one day, you'll look back and realize, I've changed. And it wasn't because of a miracle. It was because I created a pattern. And that pattern created a new reality. That's the difference between those who live on highs, and those who live on purpose. True transformation doesn't come from what you learn once. It comes from what you choose to practice every single day, until it becomes part of you. The secret is in conscious repetition, in the decision to act even when there's doubt, in the courage to be yourself, and above all, in building results that stay, not results that fade with time. Now that you understand this, you're ready to take the next step. The next video is already on your screen, waiting for you. And in it, you'll go even deeper into your awareness, your clarity, and your ability to build the life you truly deserve. This is your next step. Your next evolution. Your promise to yourself to be 1% better than you are today. Thank you so much for walking with me this far. I'll see you in the next video.